I'm 14, and this happened on a warm Saturday afternoon last month in my small town. While we were bored and chilling at the park, my best friend Layla proposed that we do the door kick challenge for TikTok. We spotted a house across from the park. It was old, but not abandoned. It had a big front porch, pale blue paint peeling off the wood, and blinds drawn tight over every window.
Perfect target,
Layla said. I walked up, took a deep breath, and slammed my foot into the door. The kick was so loud it startled me. "Frank!" I yelled, turning around and walking away like nothing happened. The door didn't open until Layla and I reached the sidewalk, but when I glanced back, I saw a woman wearing a faded gray dress standing at the house porch, watching us. She didn't say anything, didn't yell, she didn't even move. She just stood there, staring at us. I turned the corner, trying to laugh it off, but something about the way she stared had left an impact on my mind. 5 minutes later, Layla and I were 3 blocks away, planning to go for ice cream when we heard a rumble of the clouds.
looks like it's gonna rain.
Oh yeah, let's head home and watch something. We both turned at the same time, and we both froze. Standing across the road, leaning against the streetlight, was that woman. Her gray dress was moving with the rusty wind. I stopped walking. Layla noticed her too.
How did she... Was she following us this whole time?
Dread sent a shiver down my spine. An alarm bell of danger had started ringing in my mind. Let's hurry, I said to Layla. We increased our pace while keeping an eye on the woman. She stood like that for a few seconds, and then suddenly crossed the street. The hair at the back of my neck stood up. We turned back, choosing not to go near her. We were practically speed walking, yet she was following us. Her demeanor was still calm, which terrified me even more. Every time we took a turn, we met her at the end of the sidewalk, waiting for us. This happened 3 to 4 times, and Layla was on the verge of crying. I was all set to wet my pants because I had no idea what she was up to, or did she have a weapon or something. At one point, I shouted, "We're sorry, okay? Stop following us!" She stopped. She tilted her head slightly, then, without a word, crossed the road again and walked under a streetlight. Behind her were 3 trash cans. I remember that detail vividly. A raccoon had climbed halfway out of one trash can. It was pawing at a pizza box, but suddenly the woman reached into the trash can, grabbed the raccoon by the scruff, and lifted it into the air. The animal squirmed, screeching. She looked straight at us, as if to make sure we were watching. Then, she reached into her pocket and pulled out a screwdriver. Before I could even process what I was seeing, she drove it into the raccoon. I'll never forget the wet sound of the screwdriver stabbing into the raccoon's flesh, accompanied by the dying screech of the poor animal. She kept wriggling the screwdriver inside its body, churning all the flesh and blood. The raccoon kicked its legs frantically, but she held it up like some kind of trophy. Blood dripped at first, then poured, pattering against the pavement beneath her. The gash she made on the raccoon ripped so big that its entrails hung out. It was a scene straight out of a horror movie. Layla screamed. The woman stopped but kept the dead raccoon in her hand. She stared at us for a moment, then tossed the dead animal in our direction. It landed a few feet away from us with a wet slap.
This could be you next time!
Her voice was loud and clear, like she had done worse things than this in life. Layla didn't wait. She bolted, but I couldn't move. My legs locked up, my brain completely blank. I just stood there, staring at her. She laughed. Not a cackle, not a giggle, just this horrible, deliberate chuckle, like she'd just confirmed something she'd suspected about me. She waved at me one last time before disappearing into the shadows between 2 houses. I heard Layla calling my name from halfway down the block. My body finally caught up to my brain and I ran. We didn't stop until we were back home. We locked the door, closed the blinds, and sat there in silence for a long time. We didn't tell our parents. What would we even say? We were committing property damage when a woman murdered a raccoon in front of us as a threat? My dad will scold me even more if he gets to know this, and maybe he might also insist I apologize to that woman. That would be even worse because I don't want to see her. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her standing under the streetlight. I could still hear the screwdriver hitting bone, the raccoon's whimpers, and that final, awful laugh she made. The next day, I went back to that street with my bike, telling myself I just wanted to prove it was all in my head. But the trash cans were still there, and next to them, a dark stain on the pavement that no one had bothered to clean up. It's been over a year now. I never saw her again, but sometimes, when I'm walking alone at night, I get this feeling, like someone is watching from just far enough away that I can't see them. Layla never suggested doing another TikTok challenge. I used to think the door kick challenge was just dumb fun. Kick a random door, laugh, and run while people get mad. It was all for TikTok views. That summer, my friends and I treated it like a game, never stopping to think what kind of danger we were inviting. Looking back, I realized how stupid it was. You don't know who's on the other side of that door. Some people aren't just annoyed, they're violent. It was supposed to be just another dumb summer afternoon. Me, Jackson, and Hugh were bored out of our minds, hanging around our small town with nothing to do. That's when Hugh brought up the door kick challenge. It's freaking awesome, man. You just kick a stranger's door and run away while filming the reaction. It's hilarious. It sounded stupid, but we were teenage rebel-minded boys, so we went on with this idea. We started in the nicer neighborhoods, where most people just yelled or swore at us through their doors. One old lady shook her cane at us. Another guy came out shirtless and screaming. We were laughing so hard we could barely breathe. We decided to head toward the outskirts of town. There's this lonely stretch of road with maybe 3 houses, all pretty far apart. One of them, this small rusted metal roof place, looked ancient and isolated. I don't think anyone even lives there, I said, frowning my eyebrows. We should have stopped right there and gone home, but Jackson pointed at the door. Come on, let's get to it. The door was a heavy metal slab. Paint was peeling and the hinges were rusted. We walked closer and waited for a few seconds. Maybe we were all trying to make up our minds whether to kick it or not, but suddenly Jackson kicked it hard. The rusty door shuddered, surviving the kick, but its sound echoed like a gunshot. For all the other houses before, the owner took time to respond, but in this case, the door flung open immediately. A man stepped out as if he had been standing behind the door even before we arrived. He was a massive guy, with long hair that touched his shoulders. He seemed to be in his late 40s, dressed in a butcher's apron splattered with dark red stains. I swear, I caught the metallic smell of blood around him the moment he stepped out. He didn't say a word, just stared at us, then took a step forward. I thought it was some kind of joke at first. I kept filming, laughing nervously for the live stream. Yo, guys, check this out. He's really mad. All of a sudden, he started sprinting at us, his hands clenched into fists. The look in his eyes was devoid of any playfulness. We began to run. I was in front, Hugh right beside me, and Jackson trailing just a few feet behind. I could hear the man's footsteps pounding the gravel, getting closer. I thought maybe he would stop and scream at us like everyone else, but he just kept getting closer. We increased our speed and turned around for Jackson when he tripped. He was on the ground, scrambling to get up, and the man, he was already there. He grabbed Jackson by the back of his shirt and yanked him up like he was some toddler. Jackson screamed in panic. Hey, what are you doing? Guys, help me! Hugh and I froze. I was still live streaming without even realizing it. The man pulled a long, curved knife from under his apron. It glinted under the sunlight.
You came looking for trouble, and trouble answered the door. Smile for the camera. Your friends are still watching.
The man grinned at us and started stabbing Jackson. We couldn't do anything than just watch and cry in terror. The scream that came out of Jackson didn't sound human. The man stabbed him again and again, fast and hard. until his body went limp. Blood sprayed across the gravel. I dropped my phone for a second, gagging. My legs felt like concrete. Hugh grabbed my arm, yanking me forward and shouting, "Run, Noah! He's gonna kill us!" We bolted down the road, screaming for help. My lungs felt like they were going to burst, but I didn't stop. I could still hear wet, heavy footsteps behind us. We reached the end of town and ran straight into a gas station, slamming the door behind us. The clerk jumped up when he saw us, and Hugh just shouted, "Call the cops! There's a guy! He killed our friend! Call 911!" He couldn't even finish the sentence without choking up. When the cops arrived, we told them everything. What happened, where the house was, and seeing our friend Jackson in his last few minutes. The officers went out there with a whole team. They caught him covered in blood, sitting in his dusty living room, while Jackson's mutilated body was placed on the floor. It was later revealed that his name was Howard. He used to run a butcher shop in town before it shut down. After his wife left him, he disappeared from public view. He was in a very depressed state of mind. They were dead animal remains found in his kitchen, which denoted he had been cutting up strays to channel out his disturbed mind. When we kicked on his door, he was getting ready to go out and catch something more to kill. If, and only if, we didn't kick on that door, Jackson would have been alive. Hugh won't talk about it. My live stream ended the second I dropped the phone, but people who saw it before said they can't get Jackson's screams out of their heads. Me? I can still see the exact moment when Jackson realized he wasn't getting away. And that man's eyes, like he wasn't really killing a person, just preparing meat. I never went back to that part of town. Every time I see a heavy metal door, I hear it creak open again. And I remember what happens when you think you're just filming a harmless prank, only to find out the monster on the other side has been waiting for you. For 3 nights straight, at exactly 3:12 a.m., my front door rattled from a violent kick. Each time I would rush over to see my neighbor's mischievous son sprinting away while laughing. The first night I brushed it off. The second, I knew it was deliberate. By the third, I was furious. When I confronted his dad, Mr. Checkercart, he only smirked and said, "Boys will be boys." By day 4, I'd had enough. I set up camp by the door. With coffee in one hand and my phone open to my doorbell camera in the other, I waited to teach that son of a gun a lesson. Right on schedule, 3:12, I saw the boy creeping up my path with the confidence of someone who thinks consequences are a myth. The second his leg cocked back for the kick, I swung the door open. He obviously didn't expect to get caught red-handed. He stumbled backward and accidentally missed the top step of my porch. He tumbled like a sack of potatoes all the way down. I heard a crack, followed by his painful scream. "Ah! I'm dying! I'm dying!" I stood there, stunned, not sure whether to call an ambulance or laugh. Inside, I was pleased that the little brat got instant karma, but before I could help him up, his dad stormed up my driveway. He scooped the boy up and started screaming at me. "You pushed my kid? I'll get you arrested, you mean, cruel..."
I have everything recorded on the camera. I'm not afraid to show it to the cops. That's who's at fault here.
I pointed to the doorbell camera. Before we could continue this feud, a cop car patrolling the street approached my yard. They listened to my story, watched the footage, and told Mr. Checkercart exactly what I'd been dying to hear. "Sir, your son was repeatedly trespassing and harassing her. Frankly, he had it coming." His face went red, not from embarrassment. Oh no, it was the face of someone silently promising revenge. I watched Checkercart haul the kid into his truck and speed off to the hospital. In that moment, I sighed in relief, thinking this has finally ended, but I was wrong. That night, I was in bed, trying to convince myself that I could finally sleep without worrying about my door. I don't recall the exact time, but it was past midnight when I woke to a faint creak downstairs. At first, I told myself it was the house settling, but soon I heard another one, then another. The sound was getting closer, like the floorboards screeching under heavy shoes. Is someone inside my house? My stomach sank. I reached for my phone, opened the doorbell cam feed, and found it covered with something. He'd covered it. I knew he'd be back for revenge. I grabbed the big metal flashlight and crept to the top of the stairs. Mr. Checkercart was on my stairs. He was climbing it on all fours like a dog.
You covered your ears, didn't you? Thought you could ignore me, but I'm inside now.
Checkercart chuckled in a spine-chilling way, like he was deriving some sick pleasure from sensing my fear. His eyes were glowing in the dark, and he was drooling. I bolted back into my bedroom and locked the door, just as footsteps pounded up the stairs. I called 911, my hands shaking so hard I almost dropped the phone. He started banging on it like a rabid madman. My bedroom door rattled with every hit.
The cops are on their way. Leave right now or I'll...
I don't care who's coming to save you, because they won't be here in time.
I was shaking, thinking about what he would do to me if he got in. The cheap frame was starting to splinter. The dispatcher told me to stay on the line, but I knew it'd be minutes before help arrived, and by the sound of the wood cracking, I had less than one. The flashlight wasn't enough. I scanned the room and saw my bolt cutters. I'd been doing some DIY work earlier that day and left them leaning against my desk. I grabbed them like my life depended on it. Within the next few seconds, the door gave out with a crash, and there he was, red-faced, eyes wild, holding a hammer. He charged, swinging wildly. I dodged one blow, but the second clipped my shoulder. Pain shot down my arm. Adrenaline took over. I swung the bolt cutters, catching him right in the temple. The sound was sickening, a dull thunk, and he dropped like a puppet whose strings had been cut. I stood there, gasping, the bolt cutters trembling in my hands. Blood was trickling from a gash on my arm. My shoulder was throbbing, and my living room was ransacked. When the officers arrived, they found me standing over him, panting, still holding the cutters. Mr. Checkercart was driven to the hospital, ironically the same one where his son was recovering from a hairline fracture. I couldn't resist asking one of the officers if they could be put in the same room.
It'd save the nurse a trip.
I said. He actually laughed. Our local newspaper printed the incident as self-defense against a home invasion. I call it karma clocked in for a double shift. Now, my door's reinforced with a metal security gate. My cameras have backups, and I keep those bolt cutters right by my bed. I also may or may not have started a rumor in the neighborhood that the kid's dad got beaten by the crazy cat lady next door. I don't own a cat, but I like the way it sounds. Sometimes, late at night, I think about the look he gave me that afternoon, the one that promised he'd come back. And then I remembered the way his head bounced off my floor. I sleep just fine now, but a few tips for those watching. If you ever have a neighbor's kid kicking your door for days, here's my advice. 1. Record everything. 2. Never underestimate how far bad parenting will go. And 3. For the love of God, keep something heavy within reach.